make sure that all of the videos, admitting people to the space, that all of the videos are on YouTube and available for your review. I'm going to give it a few minutes. As always, make sure that you raise your hand if you have questions. If you have any feedback, use the chat. I believe Brian Cox, project manager. Yes, good morning, Brian is with us.
Good morning.
Good morning and Happy New Year. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am hoping that you can see the screen over here. This is our agenda. And again, if you have attended these in the past, this is the same presentation that we have had in the past. So feel free to drop off if you have additional meetings or if there is another place that you need to be. We ask that you make space and take space, but please do ask the questions that you want to ask. We are making tweaks to what we are presenting based on the questions that come to us from partner support to make sure that we go through and we provide answers here as well. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to mute your microphones to prevent feedback. And I appreciate that. As you guys are joining the space, make sure that your microphones are muted. I really appreciate that. All righty, trying to admit everyone so we can get started. Brian, if somebody pops in, do you mind admitting them?
Yep, I've got it.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. For those who do not know me, my name is Cecilia Hemley. I'm product manager and project manager here at Tyler, Colorado. And I'm here to provide some training and support. With me, I have Brian Cox. He's also a project manager here at Tyler, Colorado. And we also have our director of project management, Alexa Davis, on the call. So our goal for today is to make sure that people are able to authenticate as this is slightly, I think it's a little bit different. And we're also going to visit the content module. In the content module, we're going to create a basic page, and we're also going to look at the layout content type. Additionally, we're going to edit a layout by adding a section in a block, and then we're going to locate those materials or content pieces in the layouts media library, and we're going to do some other items like editing from the media library and editing from the web view. Again, this is the same agenda that we have had for the past 4 sessions that we have had. So if this is a bit redundant, feel free to join us at another time or make sure that you manage your time accordingly. So one of the things that I wanted to do is just log out so that you guys can see how we are authenticating. And again, these are questions that have come through partner support. So the way in which we authenticate is that we will enter the URL that we are wanting to edit, and then we enter user towards the end. And then we have 2 opportunities. We could use the username and password, or we could utilize the Google single sign-on. For this one, I'm going to use my eGov, but if you have multiple users, those will show here because this is your Google single sign-on. And this will take you to this page. When you are here, this is the back end, and you will see an abbreviated version of what your website will look like, but you will see that you have these options at the bottom to view your profile, to edit it, and to log out. So if you're using a terminal at work and you need to log out, you could just click on your avatar on your user here, and you can log out from here. This is different from when we had the icon for the Drupal logo, and we will click on the logo itself to log out. Now you just click on your username and you can log out right here. Now, in addition to that, on this main administrative bar, we have the ability to leverage any shortcuts to frequently use tasks. So you could just star these and they will be on your shortcuts. And then you have your manage, which will give you access to the modules that are given to you. Again, I am admin for the platform, so I have more modules than what you would have. If you are a user administrator, you will have access to the people module. Content administrators have this module, and structure administrators have structure. Again, the modules that are assigned to you and the functionalities within those modules will vary depending on the assignments that have been given to you by your organization, your entity project manager. Okay. So the first thing that we wanted to do is to locate the content within the media library. And for that, we're going to click, tap, or select on the content module. And from here, you will have all of your folders at the top. The default folder is content, but if your display is a wide display, you could click on the ellipses here and you will have access to your other folders. This is the media library. After the D10 upgrade, the blocks are now in the media library, so they're no longer under structure. Those are located in your media library. If you're wanting to look at templates that you would have from Drupal 9, those would be in the layouts tab of your media library. These are templates. This is not the layout content type. And we have had a number of questions in partner support regarding this label, and we're investigating if we could change the label from layouts to something a little bit more intuitive, something such as templates, so that it doesn't create confusion. But if you click on the layouts, you will notice that these are the items that you selected as templates. Now, the blocks are those main footers. If you leverage any blocks that you've reused on your website, those will be located here. You can sort those by the updated date, and you have the ability to have different operations here. If you delete content, be mindful that that is an action that cannot be undone. Paragraphs is just for us to manage. It's showing on mine. It may not show on yours. Files is where all of your files are located. And then you have media. Media is where you will add your images and your documents. So this right here is one of the most frequently used sections of your website because websites are heavy on images and documents, right? So if you needed to add an image, you want to click on this pill menu that says Add Media. And from here, you will click on Add Image, and then it will allow you to browse on your device, whichever image you wanted to use. So if you wanted to use an image, you will then add the alternative text, and here you would apply these two crops. The featured crop is for utilizing as a featured image, and the hero crop is what is used when this image is intended to be used as a jumbo slide. So if you wanted to utilize the hero cropping, you can apply it here. If you are not satisfied with this, you could reset the crop, and you could just go ahead and click on the item to add the cropping feature again. No, it's not doing it for me here. Yes, I need to report this to the development team because we just did it this morning. Here is where you will add your alternative text, and the other required field will be the name for the image. So make sure that you do some research on what alternative is. We could provide some feedback on what alternative text is intended for, but we have a little nugget of information down here. So if you have any questions, do let me know, and I'm happy to provide you with some samples on how to create an alternative text. But these are the two mandatory fields. You can scroll to add a description, and if you wanted to have tags, you can leverage metadata here by selecting tags. These tags create categories that you can later on use for grouping items together. If there is a revision note here, this is something that you can use for internal purposes, that this image will be only used for XYZ, or if it is something that is a little bit more important, you could just add whatever important notice here. That could be something that relates to how long the image is to be here, if it is an approved image, or whatever internal conversation you would need to have. Since this is the scope of these are all government agencies, you can leverage this tool here. If you go back into the content and you select the media, from media, you're also able to add a file. There are some guidelines on how to create your PDFs, and we're happy to share that information. The Colorado Governor's Office of Information Technology has a bunch of resources on how to have accessible files, but here it will point to your browser, and from your browser, you could select the image that you're wanting to select. And let me see here in CMS. Let me add this one. This is just a sample document. and this is the dialog that will populate. You're able to add a description if this is something that you want to have internally, but here the only mandatory field is the name of the document. Similarly, you can add a description. You could leverage these related tags as kind of like metadata, and you also have your revision log. Okay, I'm going to click back into content. That is all that we have for the media library. The default folder within your media library is your content. And for content, you notice that I have starred this. This will show in my shortcuts here. For me, for this website, this is a frequently used task. So I have already started. So when I'm looking at my shortcuts, I could just click on content and it will take me right there. So if this is something that you use a lot in your assignment and what you're doing for your organization, you may want to just, create these shortcuts so that your frequently used tasks are available to you. So the default when you go into the media library is this content tab right here. If you needed to add a content, we have a list of content types, and I'll show those to you in a moment, but you would do that by adding by clicking here on add content. This here is a table that holds all of the content that has been added to this website, and this is just a table that you could sort by title, content type, author, status, update. Now, the operations that you could execute from this module is to clone the page, delete it, or edit it. You can also edit the page by clicking on the page, and that's how we edit from the web view. But if you wanted to sort this table, you have the ability to leverage these parameters here. So if all you wanted to look were layouts and their published status being published, you could filter your selections like so. You could reset it. And then we have some additional actions that you can execute to the items in this table. Now, again, be very mindful when you are making these changes that the changes cannot be undone when you're deleting. But if you needed to unpublish a number of 3 articles because they're superseded or they're no longer needed, you could select the content type and you could just unpublish the content or make the changes here. And you would apply then to those selected items right here. So just to circle back, we're in the content module. We have added media by going to the media tab and clicking on the pill menu. You will notice these are items that we have had repeatedly. So we're not going to add them so that it doesn't create a second node for the same exact image. But if you click back into content by clicking on these breadcrumbs, you can add a piece of content here. Now, these are the options that we have when it comes to different content types. And this is the layout content type that is new to Drupal 10 for our platform. To create a basic page, which is a very popular page, this one still carries rows and cards. You could do a variety of different things, but for this example, we're just going to say New Year is here as a title. And then here you have the CK Editor 5. This is the new editor that we have in Drupal 10. A lot of the features are different. A lot of them are same. So again, this is where we would just add content. I am going to grab some content from here, and I am going to paste the content. And then the only other thing that is needed at this point is to determine the moderation state. In the rows and cards for basic pages, your default moderation status is going to be draft. And I'm going to make a note of this because we're going to come back and talk about this in a moment. But your default moderation state is draft. A few of the features that are different is that now you have 2 different options for adding content. Inserting media, that is, when you insert media from your device, you could go ahead and select the one that you're wanting to. Actually, this is the one when you're adding media from your media library. So these are all of the different images that we already have in our media library. So if I wanted to add the image of the sunset for test, I will select the box and then I will insert the image here. And these are my options for positioning of the image within my basic page. The other option, which is new, that we didn't have this in Drupal 9, this is a different tool, is to insert the image from your device and it will point to, but this is the same one, but if we had a different image, we can import that image from our device. And I'm just going to indicate this is a decorative item. And then from the corners, I could pull in the boundaries to resize the images like such. And it will tell me what that looks like. I can always toggle back to the original. And I also have the ability to position my image as it relates to paragraphs. So again, I could toggle back to the original, or I could pull in those boundaries there. If I wanted to include a link onto this image, I have the ability to do so by clicking on this link image right there. Do we have any questions thus far? Any questions so far?
Yeah,
I
I have
have
a question.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Would you suggest using, when would you suggest using a basic page versus a layout?
Well, it depends on what features you're trying to leverage. The rows and cards are familiar. Um, it is a feature that has not been deprecated, and it's allowing you to create content and display that content to your constituency in a way that your learning curve is not steep. It's familiar. For layouts, it is the new content type, and that's where we want. That's our goal, is to become familiar and proficient with layouts so that we could continue to move with the core features of Drupal 10. But if you want something that is familiar to you, I will go with a basic page. And as we continue to make improvements and to grow what layouts look like, it will then become more, it will become available. There are some benefits to layouts as we continue to build those with headings and some other issues that were flagged from accessibility standpoint. But yes, I don't think there is a preference or a recommendation when we're creating content to use a layout over a basic page. Just the level of familiarity and the speed in which you need to have the content in front of your users.
What about content that's already currently created in rows and cards? Are we supposed to be transitioning those to layouts? Do we have to create the page all over to transition it to layouts?
We're still in conversations, Marie, about finding a systematic way in which that could happen without having to move hundreds and hundreds of pages. At the moment, the rows and cards have not been deprecated, and they were brought in as they were into Drupal 10, right? So I wouldn't worry at the moment. When we have information and a timeline as to when we will depart with rows and cards, we're definitely going to let you know. But at the moment, there is no indication for us to depart with rows and cards. So if you have familiarity with the layouts, you're encouraged to go in that direction. However, if you want to remain where you are, you could just remain where you are. I hope, not sure if this is answering your question.
It is, thank you. It is, thank you.
I have a question. We typically use Google Drive to manage files. It's just we find it easier to be able to update files without having to update the link. But when would you, I guess, what is the difference between uploading a document through that media button versus uploading a document from within the page? Because that's also an option.
Well,
Does it just hold different media file types? Is that the main difference?
Well, we ask that so we're asking our users to leverage the use of the media library because it creates a node for each one of your entities. So when you upload an image, it's creating that node that you could then reference in multiple pages, buttons, cards, wherever you want to reference it, and it's better integrity for your content, right? If you were to, so again, when you're creating the page and you're attaching the image at the page level, for you to reference it in another page, it may not have the same path. So what we are recommending, and we have always recommended, is that individuals and content managers and administrators leverage the media library. It's similar to when you're creating a block that is recreated or reutilized in multiple pages, Oscar. That creates its own node, and it could be utilized over and over by referencing the node as opposed to uploading files that are just attached to a node. When it comes to Google Documents, I'm more than happy to create an iframe with you so that you could then reference that using an open embed block or an open embed card. An open embed block in the layouts and an open embed card in rows and cards. However you want to do it, I am more than happy to show you how to create that iframe. And the iframe has two different options. You could do the grid where you have the files that look like little tiles, or you could do the list and we could bring in the whole folder in. And those are options that are sustainable if you don't want to or don't have the capacity to upload all of the files into the media library, because I am guessing Department of Labor and Employment may have an excess of, I don't know, thousands of files.
Yeah.
But
Our
if you
biggest
wanted,
issue is revisions when we need to update a document. We found that even because you can replace files, but for some reason it'll cache, and even if you replace the file, it'll continue to show the original file that was uploaded. I don't know if that's something that's being fixed, or that's why we go with Google, because you can just replace a file and then don't have to worry about updating the link. But yeah, that's
yes,
helpful information.
there is a ticket about, I think it was your organization put in a ticket about it, and we're having those sites re-indexed with Google to make sure that it doesn't display in Google searches external, and then the programmable search, it doesn't show in Google internally. So those are two parallel conversations, but we do have ways to mitigate. So I'm happy to entertain any type of collaboration session in which we create those iframes to make sure that the content is displayed in a way that your end users, your constituents, can access the information freely. I hope I have answered your question, Oscar.
Yep, thank you.
Do we have, Brian, do you see anything else on the?
There is another hand raised from Danielle.
Okay, go for it.
Yes, I wanted to clarify the Rosen cards deprecation issue, because it was my understanding, based on conversations that took place last year, that Rosen cards would be deprecated at some point within the coming year. And as a result, we would have to transition all of our existing content to the layouts format at some point during 2024. So I wanted to make sure that that was still the case, because I keep hearing Rosen cards isn't deprecated. And I'm not looking at a next month timeframe. I'm looking at a next year timeframe. So for the future proofing aspect of the new content I'm creating, what is the timeline for phasing out the Rosen cards functionality within Drupal 10?
Yes, and that is a fair question. And the reason why we do not have a date is because we're exploring a way in which to see if this could be done in a systematic way. So to lessen the burden for websites that have thousands, hundreds of pages, right? So yes, what you have described is accurate. But after receiving feedback from our user groups, from our community of users, we understand that there are concerns about the timeline, and also there are concerns about how is this going to happen. So our team is exploring if there is a way that this could be done in a systematic way in which content is migrated or not. So at the moment, you are right, Danielle, I don't have a date. I don't have a timeline for this. Now, on the call, let me see if, do we have Alexa? Alexa Davis is our Director of Project Management, and she could provide further information on this, but we do not at the moment have a timeline that says this is when rows and cards are going to be gone, and it will not be next month because it won't be next month. For
Well, one of my main concerns actually is that as I'm creating new content, I want to be able to start using the layouts feature, but as it currently exists, I can't recreate the pages, the same page structure that I have currently on the website. Like I can't add left side navigation in a layouts environment, and things like that. There's still a lot of features that aren't robust, they're not present, things like that. And I have already submitted partner support tickets for all of those, so don't worry about that. So I'm just concerned about the time frame, like what that's going to be workload wise, 2024, especially since while we're also trying to accommodate this transition to Drupal 10, we are also doing a lot of work for accessibility. To get up to speed. So that's a lot to happen at the same time. So I just wanted to mention that. And the fact that when you do create a layout, it creates a new node. So if you are creating a layout version of an existing page, you can't use the existing node of the page as it currently is on the website. So you have to go through the laborious process of connecting it to your navigation. But even when you do that, you're breaking any external links to that previous node. So like, that's one of my concerns. So just thought I'd mention.
No, we truly appreciate it, Danielle. All the feedback that you provided to us, and not only you, but many of the users on this call, is what is impacting the decision-making process, right? So we have also mapped out these, meaning the features that have not been yet added are in the research and development so that we can add them to the layouts so that it is a better experience for the users. So I totally agree with your concerns. I mean, we appreciate you sending tickets to partner support with the rest of the users because this is what is informing our next steps.
Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
No, thank you. Do we have any additional hands up?
No hands up, but we do have some questions in the chat, Cecilia. The first one, could you show using that font awesome button within the WYSIWYG editor on a page?
Sure. So let me go back into content. I'm going to add a basic page. And this is looking very different from what we had in Font Awesome in the past. So let's select some text and let's click on this Font Awesome icon. And then I am going to select the word book. And then there are various options. Let's just do this one. And I want it to be solid. And there is my Font Awesome link. And then for here, I'm going to make it, let's say 5 times, right? And then for position, I want for it to be just top and bottom within the text. And then for solid, I'm just going to make sure that it is solid. And I'm going to hit return. Oops, went away. And for the size, let me make it bigger. I need to give this a title. And let's go ahead and make this, let me show you what it looks like when it's a draft. We still have the pink background to indicate that this is a page that is not published. So that has not gone away. That is still there. That is your visual indicator that the page is in a draft moderation state. I can still change it from the published from draft into publish, hitting apply. It would make it FA as my URL. And I no longer have my pink background. If I wanted to edit, I could go back in here and I have the WYSIWYG features here that I could continue to add content and that type of deal.
Next question we have, could you cover how to add alt text to the images that are inserted in content?
Inserted from your device?
I'm assuming yes, based off of that.
Because I do have, so the insert media is going to point to your media library. And since we already created that node in the media library, you would create, let me just duplicate right here real quick. So the phantasm is added, not the phantasm, the alternative text could be added to the item and it will carry over. So when I am adding media, I could just insert the alternative text here and it will carry as I am inserting that item into my page, into my section and my block as it is referenced elsewhere. So the alternative text will carry. However, in the WYSIWYG, when you are inserting using this insert image, this is not pointing to your media library. This is pointing to the device that you are utilizing. And if you wanted to add the image, when you select the image, a little message is going to populate here. Image of this one will need some This is not the best alternative text because I'm making some assumptions that this is an office setting, but this is where you would insert the alternative text because you're not pointing to the media library that already carries it over. Is this answering your question?
Yeah, let us know, Trey, if this isn't fully answering your question.
Was that a no? I'm sorry, Brian.
He said yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Now, one thing is that if you don't have I believe it's at the bottom right, you would have, I'm going to delete this one and I'm going to insert one and I'm not going to place the alternative text. When you look at the bottom and you hit return, it will tell you on the bottom right. Got it. On the bottom right, there will be a black and yellow alert that says that you're missing the alternative text. So it gives you a little alert right here. And if you click on this little caret, it will open the dialog at the top and you could say collab or whatever you're going to select or curate your alternative text to be. I hope this answers your question.
I'm going to skip to this question, but in a similar vein, do the Font Awesome icons have alt text on it already, or is there anything that's needed to be done for those?
So that should be in the source because those Font Awesome icons, as we understand them, are accessible and they're in the source. So let's go back to Font Awesome and let's snoop around and see what the source displays. That is an I-class. This is a question I'm going to put on the burner for our director of design, Barry Lawson, to see if Font Awesome remains accessible. And I can update this group the next time we see each other. Because as I understand it, Font Awesome was selected for images because of accessibility.
Antoinette, I'm going to get back to your question, but I'm going to go to Sonia's first, if you don't mind. Can you show off the open a new window feature that we've added to the platform recently, Cecilia?
With the icons?
Open a new tab when you create a link within the WYSIWYG.
Yeah, here it is. So that's the, it opens email here since this is an email link. So that's the one for if it is an email. And let me see where I have that else. thought we had added it to everything. This is not displaying for some reason, because these are not. I'm blanking here, Brian. How do you
You're good.
mean?
I would just go ahead and open and create a new basic page. And then when you use that link icon, there's now that open and new tab, new window option that we have.
Okay. So that
Exactly. Yep.
Let's do like we need new coffee, more coffee. Is it I think it's by default, right, Brian? Or
you'll have to open up that advanced drop
and
down
then
right
open
there.
up in a new window. This one out. This was a code change we had not too long ago. This is brand spanking new. Yep. So I'm gonna save this, and then we're going to look at it right there. So that's your target right there in a new window. This is my original window.
Perfect.
Does that answer
we're getting
your
a thumbs
question,
up
Sonia?
and a clap from Sonia, so it looks like we're good on that one.
Right on. Sorry, for a moment I blanked. It's
want-
like she wants to see it done, not the little icon.
No, you're good. Yeah. I did want to circle back on Antoinette's question here. Can you demonstrate creating a URL redirect? I was running into some issues with the URL redirects, now saving, and it'd be super helpful to see someone do it.
Okay, so there's two ways of doing the redirect. We could do it from this tab right here where you have the URL redirects, and then you would need to have where you want it to be pointed. So for instance, if you want it to be a permanent redirect, which is, there are these different options right here, but the move permanently, this would be the path. So what is the use case that you are trying to recreate, Antoinette?
Hi, yeah, excuse me, this is Antoinette. Yeah, I was trying to just redirect a page to another page through the 301 move permanently redirect.
Got it.
And I was having issues with the save. So when I went to enter the new URL, like into the path right there, it wouldn't save. It would suggest using a URL alias. And so I was like, okay, let me create the URL alias. So then I went ahead and did that. And I was like, I don't think this is, and it still wasn't redirecting. So I'm like, how do I get this to redirect correctly?
Okay, so let's find a piece of content that we can redirect. So let's try the sample event. Or the ones that we just created today. So this one is the one with the target, and this one is /target. If I wanted, I'm sorry, I thought there was feedback.
Oh, no, sorry.
Totally fine. So how I understand this, and again, I think I'm in need of more coffee today. So the path would be, so this one is /target. And the node that I want to utilize here would be the one that we did for Font Awesome. When I start to look for content within my mini site, within my database, it's going to present me with this orb, and this orb here is going to start to present different autofills for content that will be frequently asked questions or da, da, da. In this case, if I wanted to do the one that we just did today with the little book icon, that is the node that it will present for me. And then I will use the blue save button and it would save for me. And then it will indicate that the redirect is in place. Now, there are some options for redirects that I am not sure are visible to you as your user. But we do have the ability to look at the redirects that have already been placed in this particular mini site, and it will list them here. So if I were to look at the one that was named /target, it should be listed here as the most recent. This is the table, so I have the ability to do /target, and apply, and hopefully this will present the one that we just did. Let me do them alphabetical sort, see if I have a better result here. That is frequently asked questions. Let's go towards the end to see if we can find the one for Target. This is the one right here from Target to Fontosum. It's a 301. Antoinette, if we're having challenges with these, I'm happy to set up a one-on-one so we can look and see why they're not saving.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Because I've never, Brian, have you had this problem pop up in the past where the redirect is not sticking?
Sometimes you may have existing redirects or aliases in there that need to be cleaned up.
Okay.
That kind of create an issue. If there's a particular page or redirect that you're trying to do, Antoinette, that you're having issues with, go ahead and send an email to partner support so that we can look specifically into that and see what maybe needs to be cleaned up on the back end. Because I've seen instances, for example, where somebody has a circular redirect where it just kind of goes around and around because they have one thing pointing to the same thing and back again. So it could be something of that nature. We just have to look into your particular case.
Yeah, but the functionality, and thank you so much for that, Brian, but the functionality is working on my particular profile. This might be a one-off or one in which we need to, as Brian has indicated, suss out, because I haven't experienced in the 4 years that I've been here the inability to save, but we will need to further research. So yes, partner support at www.colorado.gov so that we can schedule a one-on-one after we have sussed out what root cause might be for that one. But the function, I mean, we have a ton. We have way too many. But yes, we can see right here that Target is pointing now to Fontosum. And again, yeah, I send us the specifics so we could do some like a deeper dive on that. Okay, I hope this has answered your question.
This is perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Do we have additional questions?
I have a related question. We're trying to redirect pages from our main website to a completely different website. So is the process the same?
Yes. So instead of circling and searching your media library, you're just going to enter the entire protocol, HTTPS, and then the URL.
But I would make sure to do that under the configuration tab rather than through one of those pages and those URL redirects.
Right here. So you wouldn't want to do it at the page level. You just want to create a redirect here and then enter the path to the new path.
I see. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need us to walk you through that process, just say the word.
Will do. Thank you.
We've got a couple more questions in here, Cecilia. This one I'm not sure on. We may need to check with the developers on, but I'm going to see if you know better than I do. Does the feature to open a link in a new tab announce that it will do so for screen readers?
Okay, let me make note of this because I think that was the intent, that the fix that the devs implemented was meeting accessibility. So we're just going to ask, where our understanding is that the fix is accessible, but we need to double check. So the target being accessible. Do you have another question for me?
Yes, one from Carrie. With the new law coming into effect on July 1st and the fines coming to agencies, when do we anticipate all of these accessibility issues to be resolved? I need to plan for extreme amounts of time to go into the source code and resolve manually, and they're wanting to start planning.
Yeah, definitely. Now that the Drupal 10 upgrade is complete, this is when we're now resuming all of the accessibility mitigation. And there are communications between the feedback that comes from the Colorado Governor's Office of Information Technology that goes directly to our developers. And on a monthly cadence, we're going to be pushing out all of the accessibility items that have been identified. So that is our sole priority now that Drupal 10 upgrade is complete. Carrie, I hope I'm answering your question, but this is the path forward, is to make sure we meet the July 1st for the House bill. Does that answer? We have these 6 months to mitigate. That's the target, that we're going to have them all done before July 1st.
Okay. I guess we'll just keep having these updates and knowing where we're at, because
yes,
we can't find out on June 30th that they're not complete, and then we start getting fines. So the answer can't be by June 30th. Like, we need to know this one is iffy, and we need to start going in and just doing it manually and making sure you're not overwriting our work when you send out an update. Like, that's, like, we're getting down to the real time here now.
Yeah, so. And that's fair. That's fair. But yes, we already have scheduled next week is going to be a deployment, and I'm looking, we have the different accessibility items that are going to be added there. So yeah, it is very much our top priority now that everybody is on Drupal 10.
And that is all I've got in the chat.
Okay. Anybody has, I think Oscar has a hand raised.
Sorry, I don't think I ever put it down.
Okay. So we have about 15 minutes before the end of our time together. So I just wanted to go into the content and just show you, for those of you who have only attended or this is your first time joining us, the layout, and I'm sorry, I just did that too fast. We're going to click select or tab content. And the content is going to bring you the default tab of your media library, which is the content. It's like I say that 3 times, and there's 3 labels: content, content, and content. And then there's a 4th one here. This is where we're going to find the different content types that are available to us. We're going to select layout. And layout is the new content type that was added with Drupal 10, and where at the beginning it's going to be iterated on the daily as it is right now, to improve and to try to actualize, the full potential of what Drupal 10 could do. But the only required field is the title, and this is consistent with what we have from paragraph, rows, and cards. The only required field is your title. Okay, so we're just going to say a new layout for 2024, and I'm going to Humpty Dumpty this and just clean this up later on. Here you have the ability to add that featured image. I'm not sure that you guys recall when we were adding an image, we had a featured crop and a hero crop. So that hero crop will be referring to this hero image on the top of your page. Okay, so that's why I wanted to make sure that you guys knew where to designate the hero and the featured cropping to your images, because that question comes up. Then you have your CK editor. Another thing I wanted to mention is that different than rows and cards, when you're doing paragraphs, your default in layouts is published. So if this is not ready for prime time, please uncheck this box at the bottom because it will be discoverable. And this is something that nobody has asked, but I thought I'll put it out there because nobody has asked me yet. But make sure that if this is not ready for prime time, just deselect the default publish item, not item, but checkbox right here. Very quickly, you do have the same features here on your navigation at the right? So those are still going to be consistent. The revision logs, all of that jazz is still there. You could get your menu link and all of these things. So when I save this item, I'm not going to save it as a published page so that you can see that you get your pink background. This is not published, it's not discoverable. When I am editing this section right here, I could go ahead and edit this body. And the body will have the CK editor. You will notice that on the ribbon at the top, there is a new tab. It reads layout. This is where, excuse me, excuse me. This is where you're going to be adding your sections and your blocks. Excuse me. So this, I will ask for you to just go in there and play with it so you can familiarize yourself with how this layout is looking very different from rows and cards. Excuse me. When you scroll towards the middle of the page, you would notice that the first section is that body section from where you put the title. You have the ability to add a section at the bottom of this dotted line. Alternatively, if you wanted to add a block to the existing section, you could just select, tap, or click here. If we're going to add a new section, the dialog is going to populate on the right-hand side, and it's going to ask for how you want to display the content. If you wanted to use a single column, 2 columns, or more than that. I wanted to show you the 2 columns so that I could point back to something that we're familiar with. In rows and cards, we had the distribution of the cards be 1/3, 2/3, or 50-50 will be 1/2, 1/2. This is where you will select the distribution of your columns in the sections and blocks with the layout builder. So this, instead of using the fractions, it's just using percentages, but it is the same functionality. Okay, I'm going to use 1/2 and 1/2 just to make it simple, and we're going to add a section. Now that we have added the section, you would notice that it says configure section 2, and you have this little dotted line that is pointing out where that secondary section is. Excuse me. When you select, tap, or click on add a block, this dialog will populate on your right, and you have the ability to select different types of blocks. You have a basic block, a media block. This is the open embed block, Oscar, that we were talking about, where you're going to embed your Google Docs. It behaves exactly the same like your open embed card from rows and cards. I think there's a hands up, right, Brian?
Yes, by Danielle.
Okay, go for it.
I just wanted to mention that in this layouts module, on the edit tab, where you have all of your navigation and such, like the thing that's missing is the display tab that we have in rows and cards, where you can assign like a left nav and Jumbotron, etc. But what you see down here at the bottom, the layout, this brings up the confusing nomenclature of this build of Drupal 10, because now you have a layout within a layout. I have tried this exact thing you're demonstrating now, and it doesn't work. There's no way to assign which of the navigation menus that I've created to this this layout. And the fact that they're calling the navigation display layout within a module that's already called layouts, and then there's a third thing called layouts that's templates.
Yes.
And then we've got blocks that are one thing, but they're also a different thing within the layouts
that is blocks
module. Like that nomenclature, like if there's a way to clean all of that up and make it more intuitive and at least give everything separate names, that would be incredibly helpful. Because as it stands now, it's incredibly distracting. So have you utilized this layout thing that you're demonstrating right now? Because I have not seen it working. Like it's not showing any menus on either side, and you can't assign which menu menus you want to that layout page. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So like, in order to be able to use this layouts module builder at all, like that functionality has to be restored because all of my pages have left-hand navigation.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up because that, as it stands now, does not work.
Yep.
And I have
that is.
submitted it.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And this is something that I think it's in research or development, or we have a specific sprint. We have a specific sprint for layout. And I think that card is there because it's something that we're going to be looking at, but we need to research it first. So yes, I do believe this is something that is known to us because all of those tickets that you put in, we just filter it back into the development work for our software engineers. So yes, there is an entire sprint related to all of the improvements and all of the additions that are going to be added to the layout content type. And it's not lost on us, Danielle. We are all trying to figure out if by changing the tags of things that are displayed, it doesn't change, it doesn't fight against the paths of things. And Brian and I have had long conversations about how can we make sure that paths are not confused and that things are still operating properly when we change labels and tags on things. So yes, we have had way too many conversations, Ryan and I, about this because we identify this as a barrier for people who are new to layouts to understand where the layouts are. And we do understand like simple things like content. There's 3 different labels. There's the content here, there's also content here, and there's content here. So we do understand that there are some navigation and nomenclature and naming conventions that we need to address to improve our experience moving forward. So again, we really appreciate your feedback. And we are already having these conversations.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that you're trying to be, you're trying to use terse language so that you have more real estate on the screen. But like even just having descriptive phrases or like text underneath to describe what it is would be helpful. So.
And we have used that, and that is what we are trying to do because even we already use that when we're talking about alternative text, we're providing a description. So that's where.
Well, I mean within the build interface itself. Like when we're in the back end, you know, even if like you hover over something and it gives you a more descriptive, just something to make it more clear, even if you can't for some reason change those names because of some kind of program issue. Like, like for instance, when you go back to where you just were, like there was descriptive information underneath the button that said, this is where you would do this, you know? So like having more stuff like that would be helpful.
And this type of description is what I am looking at.
So I'm not talking about alt text. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about alt text either. What I am trying to say is the descriptions. So we have already leveraged a header and a description underneath. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, and I like it there, like use local files for reusable, like that sort of, so yeah, we're on the same page.
Yep. Oh my gosh, it's almost 11. This was a really good conversation. Do we have any other questions that I could talk super fast and try to answer?
Just one last question, I promise. So once you apply a template, a layout template to a page, will we be able to modify that page to add more blocks, or do you have to update the template and will it reflect on that new page created? Because we have the same issue with our email platform where if you select a template, you can't add additional blocks. You have to go in, edit the template, and then create a new page with a new template, which is really annoying because then at that point you would have to create dozens and dozens of templates for each particular, use case.
Okay,
does that
so
make
Oscar,
sense?
Are we talking about the templates and the template and the layouts? Is this what you're talking
Yes.
about here? Yes. So
Yeah.
when you're looking, this is just templates that we dropped in there, like when we gave you your brand new ONA. ONA came with 10 menus that were for you to go in and change the name. These templates are just that. They're just templates that we dropped there with different versions of display of content. So you could just take this one, edit it, and change the name so that the node would no longer be this one. You would just take this. So this is not a reusable template. This is just content that we have put together. We just put this in there so that you will have things that you could use later on. So this is not a reusable template. These are just mock-ups of things that you could use as inspiration, then change the name and utilize them. Similar to the 10 menus that come on your structure module. That's not a reusable template. I hope this is answering your question.
Okay, yes, thank you.
And I think if we have that use case, y'all have a link to my availability. We are at time. I'm happy to go long if there are additional questions, but I really wanted to say thank you because this is what we intend to have when we have these spaces, is this collaboration and this exchange of feedback so that we can make this the best experience for you. So again, I wanted to thank you for such rich conversation. Is there anything else, Brian, that we could tackle quickly?
I don't. So we have some questions from OEdit and from Francie that are related to tickets that we have. So I think we'll circle back on those later, you and I, Cecilia, and see what we can troubleshoot on those issues. We do have a question here. Might you be updating cms.colorado.gov with the upcoming training links, training and schedule links?
Yes, that is totally where we are going. It's just a matter of us, determining the frequency of the trainings moving forward. We're also going to be having discussions with our amazing partners, Colorado SIPA, to determine when the PUG meetings are going to be. And we're going to be updating this information here to no longer read update because this is already January and it's already done. So yes, updates are coming this week because all of this information is superseded and dated.
I think that's all we've got for now, unless anyone has any last questions that they want to raise their hand on or ask quickly.
Do you see any hands up?
I do not.
Well, I really appreciate your conversation. Again, changes are coming with the new year to the CMS website, and we are going to be discussing potential dates for the power users group. We're now going to be discussing these accessibility items about the font awesome and the target, which we believe they are, but we're going to confirm and we'll share this information out. Again, we really appreciate these type of conversations. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. And if you need anything, please submit a ticket to partner support at www. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.